On this podcast, we will talk about the tools we have used in order to remind us who and what we are.
We will talk about the spiritual technologies that bring us back to the knowing that we are sovereign.
That bring us back to God. The only actual advice you will get on this podcast is to consult within.
The rest is all the things that happen when you do it.
My name is Jasai.
And my name is Stori.
And this is Sovereign You. Well. We did it. We came back. Welcome to Sovereign You. It is season 2. It is day 1, episode 1, and I am back with my co-host and child, Miss Stori.
Hello.
We are grateful to be here again, to be back having these conversations with you. The feedback on season 1 was amazing, and so we had a little meeting and we decided, let's run it again. And so why don't you tell them what today's episode is about, Stori?
Auto-aligning.
And so Stori and I have conversations. We have meetings about what we're going to talk about, what kinds of conversations we feel like would be beneficial to our community and to ourselves, to sort of look at our lives and our experiences to try to understand what's happening in them. And auto-aligning came up for me when I was listening to a psychiatrist. I think she's a psychiatrist, and she was talking about how people, despite their best efforts and intentions to do well, to do better, to progress, to move on, how they sometimes just keep missing the mark, and how our auto-alignment is really some of the reasoning behind that. So when I brought up the subject of auto-aligning with you, tell me sort of how that landed on you, what came up for you.
For me, immediately I just thought about being in alignment, what that looks like for you, especially because we're always changing and evolving. Our alignment shifts and our habits switch and our behaviors switch. So in that, we have to remember and we have to acknowledge that our body is always working for us. And when you are in a set of habits or in a set of behaviors that you're not necessarily looking to grow or move forward with, you have to remember that you set those in place. And so that is that's the auto-aligning to me, is that your body's always working for you. So if there's an automatic response, you put that in place. And so you also have to do the work and structure your life in a way that you can renew your habits and take on new behaviors.
Beautiful. So that'll be the sort of largest part of our conversation. But before we dive into that, the holy inquiry.
Okay.
I've been excited to come back and ask these questions because I realized in listening to season 1, I was sort of giddy at sort of being able to dive into your life, to look at parts of your experience that I might not be able to see in working with you, or we may not have covered in previous conversations. And so today's holy inquiry is, what are you proud of yourself for these days?
I am proud of myself for holding myself accountable to my actions and behaviors and looking at things front facing and facing them, literally seeing them and being like, oh no, I do that. Or just accepting my behavior in a way that allows me to move forward, because I'm always focused on, renewing my habits, because the things that we put in place aren't always meant for us forever. They're just meant for the time being a lot of the times. And so when you have certain behaviors and certain characteristics, that's part of your evolution. That's part of your growth, is to recognize those things and overcome them. And for a while, I wasn't doing that very well. Like, there were certain things that it was just too hard for me to look at. And so I just didn't at all. I just would shy away from them. And I can think being in a relationship, and I can also think just accepting myself more for that, for the ability for me to like really see things and be like, oh no, I do that.
Okay.
Like, okay, now I can actually do something about that.
Right. Because you cannot
now I can accept it.
Yeah, you cannot do anything about what you will not see.
Yeah.
What you cannot acknowledge. So you're proud of yourself for being willing to witness you, really being able to see you. I'm sure your boyfriend is glad about that.
Yes. And it's helped me grow a fonder love for myself as well, because I'm like, no, I can see that and still love me. Like, I don't know if there was like some sort of self-love narrative in my mind that was like, oh yeah, I love me through it all, but like without actually being with what is, you know?
Or maybe some secret fear that if I look at a thing that's difficult, it will make me not love me.
Yeah.
That will be the reason or the excuse to not love me, which is it's almost like, it's so interesting. The thing that's come into my mind is like, it's almost like saying, if I abandon this child, it won't find any reason to not love me. If I abandon it. No, you can't abandon a thing and get the most love. You have to embrace the thing in order to get the most love, in order to get the highest sort of responses. You have to be able to see that child, see that thing and say, oh no, that's okay. And if a change needs to be made, we can make it together.
And there are just parts of yourself that have love to give, right? So it's like, if you embrace, and that's what I just thought of when you said that, that's what it invoked in me, is like, if you embrace that part of you, there's a piece of you that you're unlocking that has love in it.
Yeah.
Like, you can embrace that and find the love in there and grow and embrace that and heal it with your love.
I love that, because God is everywhere and God is love, which means love is everywhere, even in the tough places and in the difficult spots. So yes, and I'm proud of you for that.
Yeah. What about you?
It makes living with you easier, and I notice that. I am aware of that. Proud of myself. I'm proud of myself that I went back out on the road by myself.
I'm proud of you too.
I am proud of myself for that. And it could seem silly, and there is some part of my mind that's like, that's silly to be proud of yourself because you had done it before. But I think, again, within our subject of auto-aligning, I had gotten in the habit of being out on the road with Kim. I had gotten in the habit of having someone with me, of having a physical support of another person. And I think I had forgotten that I'm absolutely capable, without someone else being there with me, of doing what I need to do. And so in the beginning of thinking about going out alone, I was like, maybe that, that fear thing that we talked about in the car, maybe that's not good. Maybe that's not safe. Maybe that's not, like, you're making that up.
And it's just like, to even speak about anxious behavior, it's there for a reason. And that's another thing that we talked about in the car. It's not there for no reason, but it's not in charge.
Yeah, for sure.
You have other sensibilities. You have other, attachments, that belong to your body, that are attached to your environment, that teach you how to properly move through your environment. Your anxious emotions and your anxious behavior are not the leader of what it is that you're doing in your life, but they are there.
Surely. And overcoming those, breathing through those, because I really, I employed the breath. That is my sort of tool du jour these days, is breathing and following my breathing and pausing. And every time I feel anything that looks like or feels like anxiety coming up in me, to really I'm grateful that my automatic response these days is to just inhale. Yeah. Like, anchor yourself to your breathing, figure out where your feet are, figure out what the moment really is actually doing and not what your mind is doing in the moment. And then make decisions from there, which, when I did so, put me back at work, which was a good time. It was really a good time. And it was easy. It was, some parts of me would even say it was easier, because there isn't another personality to negotiate. There isn't another set of ideas to negotiate. You just make a decision and you move. Yeah. And so it's efficient. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
And just as a quick check-in, because I didn't ask you, how did the event go?
Beautiful. It was great. It really was beautiful. Being in Maryland was beautiful, like the environment, nature. I got some rain and some warmth, and it was feeling very tropical. Nice. So I was in the right mood. And then of course the clients are always great. They're like family at this point. In Maryland, Nikki's house is a warm environment, and so when people come there, they feel at home, and then they behave like they're at home. People are
Nice.
comfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Respectful.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was beautiful. So yes, I am. I'm in now. I'm officially in. Oh, that's our. Um. So to our subject today of auto aligning. And it's a little bit like when I'm thinking about it in my head or when I'm handling the words in my mouth, which is probably why it's difficult for me to remember it. Auto aligning is a little bit like cumbersome, but
Yeah.
it really is our automatic reactions and response patterns to how life presents itself. Um, your timer on your phone, you set that. So at the time you set it to go off, it goes off whether you forget about it or not. And I think that that's how our behaviors often act. That whatever we program into
Yeah.
our lives goes off at the precise moments because that's the program, even if we forget it, even if we've sort of moved on in our deciding mind, like I'm deciding I'm going to do something different. Whatever is programmed, if we don't reprogram that thing, the alarm is going to sound, it's going to go off. And so I am really interested in the subject of and the experience of being with what is my automatic programming now, looking at the impact of it, looking at where it may have come from. Because I'm not quite anymore so much invested in where things came from, particularly if I don't want them. I'm just like, nah, let's just get rid of it. But sometimes there is room to investigate. Oh, I wonder where that train of
And
thought came
yeah.
from.
And sometimes it's necessary.
Oh, you think sometimes it's.
Yeah.
Give me an example of when you think it's necessary, if you can, of when it's necessary to understand where a thing came from.
And understanding it in yourself. I feel like for me, just plainly understanding where something is rooted is a great way for you to like source the root of the challenge and then pull it up from the root. If you don't understand where the root of the challenge is, it has a propensity or it can just show up again.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And
I
so
see.
that goes back to the whole facing a situation thing. Like you have to see something for what it is, not just what it brings in the particular circumstance, because circumstances change. So you want to know what it is that is your trigger, what it is that is really causing this to take place and why.
Got it. Okay.
For me.
No, for sure. I know that I was really helped, and I don't know if I've ever told this story in this space before, but I was really helped in my training, in my Kundalini training years ago when you were like 6. And I maybe it was Guru Shabbat. One of my teachers was leading a meditation, really long meditation. And in the middle of that meditation, I was having like flashbacks of really difficult scenes of my childhood. And one of the flashbacks, like, really kind of just sent me over the edge, and I started to cry. And in this meditation, people are quiet, like no one's saying anything. So my crying is loud. And then my crying kind of progressed to wailing and then screaming. And then the beautiful part about Kundalini is that they hold space. They are brilliant space holders. And so no one moves, no one tries to rescue you, no one tries to fix it, no one tries to save you. They just sort of let you be in that moment. And so maybe I spent 5 minutes, I don't know, it felt like an eternity, but I spent some time sort of in that state. And then I heard my teacher say, is there any way you can say, fuck it? Like whatever is happening in there, is there any way you can just decide, I'm not interested. I don't want to do this. I don't want to engage this anymore. And I'm going to just leave it right here, wherever it is, and walk away. And I had never known that that kind of freedom was available. I didn't know I could just be like, oh no, I'm leaving this and everything associated with it. And it didn't, for me in that case, thankfully, it didn't turn out to be something that sort of cropped up somewhere else. This is a very specific challenge with a very specific person. And I was able to just walk away from that thing.
Yeah.
And still have a relationship, a very open and loving and warm relationship with that person, because all of the difficult parts that were all past. It wasn't anything present happening. It was all in the past. I was like, oh no. I can let all that die right here and keep walking. So yeah, for me, I have since then have employed that technique, that tactic, just because it's expedient. Like, it's again, because it's not happening now. These are not offenses that are taking place today. There's no way they could. These are all things from my childhood. I was like, yeah, no, we can.
But that happens when you do face something for what it is, right? Yeah, that moment only comes up. He was only able to tell you to say fuck it because you had the experience already. You had already seen what the root of the problem was, whatever was causing you to cry, whatever was causing you to truly surrender. Because that's what I've had to learn to do too. Like, I just have to surrender to what is. And it's not even me giving up. It's not me saying like, oh my God, I'm just going to like wallow in my tears and I'm just going to be like all in the pool of my sadness. But it also is just, what it really is for me is just acknowledging it. Just being like, you know what, this is what it is. And part of my surrendering sometimes is, okay, cry. Maybe scream. But then once you're done doing that, be done.
Absolutely. So I want to stay close to this topic of the automatic. What is automatic in us? And then if people are interested, well, how do I change what is automatic in me? So that, if I practice it enough, I always think of free throws. I don't know if I think of free throws because I grew up in a basketball household, but I always think of free throws when I think of practicing. And so some of the things that people can practice in order to realign themselves so that their automatic responses become automatic responses that are more favorable to them. In your life, some of the things that you have done, like give me a specific sort of maybe trait or practice that you thought, you know what, this isn't serving me anymore. And although this is right now, it appears to be, this is how I automatically respond. I'm going to do these things and then hopefully change that automatic response.
I have to shore myself up with the benefit of what I'm doing. Like, understand thoroughly what is the goal, what is the intended result for this new habit, for this new behavior. And then in the moment, if I see an old behavior arise and I am actively, consciously in the, action of creating a new habit, I'll have to follow my breathing sometimes too, because it can be really difficult and overwhelming to do something new. Like, it literally is physically uncomfortable a lot of the time.
And I think that is the hardest part. And maybe just because people don't know that the physical is so deeply entrenched with the mental. And so when the physical happens, they don't think it's related at all. They're like, just let's get away from this. Let's get away from what's happening in my physical body. But they don't know, you're getting away from your promise to change, your promise to do something different.
And I'm also like a reaffirming kind of person. I'll share my goals with other people. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I'll be like, oh, you know what I did today? Like, I wasn't doing this before and now I'm doing this now. Or, I wanted to stop doing this, so now I'm starting to do this now. So yeah, I definitely will have conversations with my peers, have conversations with my friends and family, and reaffirm. Like, right now I'm in a space where I'm getting my finances together, and months ago that wasn't the case. And so I've even told you, like, just doing the work of not spending money and doing the work of watching my finances and doing the work of just paying attention to what I do with my money, it varies. Like, sometimes I'll, write down everything I spend in a day. I don't do that every day. Okay. But it's just to monitor. I'm in the mindset of monitoring. So however that shows up. And I think that when you're creating new habits, you can do fun things. You can do things that, again, affirm you and make you feel like I'm still me in the place of this new action. Okay. Like, right. I don't have to go so far from myself, because I think that's what kind of strays people away from new habits and new behaviors. They just feel so foreign even to themselves. Or the new behaviors and actions that they're taking on, they don't see themselves doing it.
Right. Not yet. And you can't because you haven't. Yeah. But you will if you do. That's the tricky part. Like, no, this isn't you yet, but you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
You can have whatever you want to have, but while it's foreign, while it's new, you can't just keep abandoning it. Like, no, that doesn't feel comfortable to me. No, what you're used to feels comfortable to you, even if it's has the worst outcome in the world, which
Right.
is kind of gnarly to think about. But no, if you're an argumentative person and you can see, oh, no, it's problematic for my relationships, it's problematic for my blood pressure, it's problematic for my skin, it's problematic for my sleep, then you have to, when the opportunity to be in the argument comes up, you have to be quiet.
Yeah.
You have to not argue. And then it's going to feel bad. It's going to feel like, oh no, I'm being taken advantage of. You know, your ego and your mind is going to do all the things, but you have to get in the new habit.
Yeah, and even in a practical manner, like even when we're talking about like our diets, or another example, like when we're talking about our diets and things like that, you have to figure out where your rewards are. Like if you want to stop eating dairy, are you looking for clear skin? Are you looking to not have mucus buildup? Are you looking to have, if you're a woman, easier flow in your period? Like, what are you looking for that's going to reward this new habit? And it's interesting. I hope that I can do the book today because I brought Atomic Habits.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And that talks about how habits are created by a reward system, or at least for me.
Okay.
What you get from it is really what pushes you through to get to the other end of this now new habit.
I love that you keep saying, and I often say this, particularly in the guardian meditation practice, I love that you keep saying for me, because sometimes I think people also get confused or frustrated because they're looking around and they're like, well, what is this person doing? And what is this person doing? It's just not there. What you need to do is look at you. Look at what motivates you, what moves you, what encourages you, because no one has the answer to that for you except you. And even getting into the habit of consulting yourself, trusting your own consultation, and then moving in that. And that will feel weird if you're always looking at the person, who's the most successful, or looking at the person, who you think is the most stable or the most balanced. As good as that feedback or that sort of presentation seems out in the world on that person, it's never going to be exactly the same on you. And so consulting with you is the highest form of getting where you need to go, getting what you need.
But what about you? What tools do you use? What practices do you use to develop new habits?
I'm going to give a really specific example here because that's going to help me sort of navigate this question. Because I feel like I am always looking at me. Always, always, always looking at me. Because I know I'm just going to get the fastest, quickest results. To develop a new habit. What new habit have I developed recently? I broke my nail. And I broke my nail at a time where it wasn't possible to get my nail fixed, and it was game time. And I decided, no, I'm not going to care that my nail is broken. And somebody could maybe think, oh, that's a small thing. No, some of us are like, oh, Jesus Christ, that feels like a heart attack. And everything in between.
Especially if you have a full set of nails, it just looks tacky.
And so I decided, you know what? You're not going to be the kind of person who stresses over something you cannot address in the moment. And the practice of that means first, something has to happen in a real live moment. And then you have to be the kind of person that doesn't stress over it. So I did that. I tried to, get someone to bring me a glue.
Okay.
And then
crazy glue.
Yeah. And that didn't work. And then I was like, oh no, this calls for not caring that your nail is broken. And what was so cute about it is that I was like ready for that. I was into it. I was like, fine, the nail's broken. It's fine. And then the other nail broke. And then I was like, oh no, God means this. God means to show me, no, there's a way to not care about things that you can't do anything about in a moment and still be fine. That's a practice of mine, because if you think about that, even when it's small things like a nail being broken, we will move everything. We will shift our schedules. We will make a day stressful. We will, those kinds of things. And then that's built into your personality. Like, I have to have everything just perfect, in my mind, perfect, or things won't be right. And I want to be a more roll with the punches kind of person. I feel like we're moving into a time in our culture where there are really serious things on the line. There are really serious things at stake. And while some of this stuff that we like to do and like to have in place, sometimes that's not going to be available. And if we aren't fine, if I'm not still settled and still calm because I can't address some small thing, that's not going to be good for me. That's not going to be good for the kind of vibration that I'm trying to carry around. And so that is it. Letting go of things that really cannot be addressed in the moment save me. And then even when the practice of it shows up as a small thing, sometimes big things are going to happen. Sometimes really impactful things are going to happen. But if I'm in the habit of saying, is there anything I can do about that? Sadhguru said, what is my responsibility? Am I able to respond? If I am, for sure, I'm in there with the response. If I'm not, and so I had no ability to respond at that moment. This nail is broken. There's nothing I can do. And so my response is going to be calm and get on with it.
So the shift was more so your habit shift. You're explaining is more so in your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, just shift your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do that more. I do that more than any kind of most shifts have to be in your mind first.
Absolutely.
So that's really where the root of your shifts are, anyways. But that's mostly what I work on. I work on my thinking a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
because it is your living.
Yeah.
It is your experience. Your thinking literally is your experience.
And I just feel like in a day and age where, so many people have such little information on their own mental health and their own mental security, they can be kind of dependent on other resources for mental stability. And I think that you really just have to be in touch with yourself and know that, one, what you're going through mentally is normal. And two, that you just need to work through it. Your mind is, like I said, like we're talking about habits, your mind is here to work for you. Your mind is not in charge.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to move through your thoughts, because before you even commit your action, you're going to think about it. Your mind is going to have already processed it. And so what I'm learning is to, like I told you before, just to choose peace. Like, especially with things I know how to do. I'm not going to think about them. I'm just going to do it. And my new habit has been focus on just doing it and choosing peace while you're doing it. Don't think about it. Just do it.
Even in the small things, like laundry. Because I think
why would you have to think about that? Yeah. What is involved? What thought process do you have to have for the 90 millionth time that you've now done laundry?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's something we do have to call our attention towards. And again, the peace part, I think I was meaning specifically, like, is there any way I can cultivate an energy of peace while I'm doing these mundane tasks? Because that's great practice. It's really great practice to do. There's a book, Chop Wood, Carry Water. There is a practice of being at peace, conjuring the energy of peace in a mundane practice that literally just puts up, points on the board.
Yeah.
I can be at peace when I'm cleaning my living room. I can be at peace when I'm driving to get gas. If I have my attention on cultivating the energy of peace, then when shit really happens, automatically, that's what my body now, that's what my program now knows how to do. That's how it knows how to respond.
And peace is so much more associated with flow. Like, to piggyback on what you were saying, like, if you choose peace, the intentional way that you go about building new habits will be in flow, because your peaceful state will literally have your mind and your thoughts in a peaceful state, so you can just move about your environment doing what needs to be done, and you'll find yourself, oh, that was new, that's a new behavior, that's a learned behavior based off of the things that I already know. Like, you might start doing your laundry more efficiently. Like, I think you just become more efficient, and that builds better habits when you're at peace, because when you're always frantically trying to think about things that you do all the time, then you start to fumble. I literally used to move so fast through the things that I was doing that I would knock things over.
Oh, yeah.
So now, when am I about to build the habit of cleaning up after myself because I was looking for something? You know what I'm saying?
Right, and that's right where you get to decide. Like, I'm going to decide to either, one, slow down, or I'm going to decide to build into my schedule
to clean up after myself.
After I've torn this place apart.
Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be in flow. I'm going to be at peace so that I have the ability to move through my environment better and build new habits on the way.
Beautiful. I love that. I love the self-check-in, this constant self-checking in. And when I use the word constant, I think maybe sometimes in our culture, the word constant gives people a feeling of exhaustion. It really isn't exhausting to check in on you.
Consistent.
Yeah, it really isn't. It is you being consistent with checking in on you, seeing how you are, seeing how your body is feeling, seeing how your heart is beating, seeing how your pulse is moving, like checking, am I okay? Am I good here? Am I straight? Okay, I am. So now from here, from this place of being good and settled and inside of my breath and where my feet are, how do I move? Right. Is great. And so, yes, if you are wanting to have a new way of being, pulling some very accessible practices up in front of you, pulling those things up and saying, okay, now how can I do this different so that I can create a different experience? Because the experience we are having today, I tell clients all the time, is absolutely a result of the things you did and said yesterday. But if you want to have something new happen tomorrow, today is where you make that happen. Doing and saying different things today. And so you have a book.
I have a book.
You have a book that you want to share with us. Related to this subject, amazingly. We love that lineup.
So this is a book by James Clear, and it's called Atomic Habits. And I began to read this book. I didn't read it in entirety, but there is a chart in here that explains.
I think I just saw it.
What the chart?
Oh, there's a bunch of charts in there, though.
There are plenty of charts in here, yeah. But it opens by basically just talking about this team. It was like a sports team, and the things that they did to compete with the people they were competing with was basically just follow their strengths and build off of their strengths that way, and just becoming 1% better. Like just deciding I don't have to go, and see, that's another thing with building new habits. I think sometimes we feel that we need to go from 0 to 100.
Somebody on the internet was talking about that before. Nobody wants to stick around for any haul, not even the short haul. Like, we want it now.
Yeah, like if you want to stop eating meat, let's say you want to go from eating meat your entire life to then becoming a vegetarian. You don't have to beat yourself up if you just go cold turkey and then you eat some meat.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you start by only eating fish and then go to maybe eating fish once a week and then start eating vegetables,
process
full time. But yeah, process is definitely important. I don't know if I'll be able to read these very quickly.
Oh, maybe not. But
so the first layer is changing your outcomes. This level is concerned with changing your results, losing weight, publishing a book, winning a championship. Most of your goals you set are associated with this level of change. The second layer is changing your process. This level is concerned with changing your habits and systems, implementing a new routine, at the gym, decluttering your desk for a better workflow, developing a meditation practice, and most of the habits you build are associated with this level. The third level and the deepest layer is changing your identity. This level is concerned with changing your beliefs, your worldviews, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others. Most of the beliefs, assumptions, and biases you hold are associated with this level.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm particularly resonating with changing your identity.
Yeah, me too.
Because I really want to be the highest, widest, wisest version of myself, and I know that requires identity shift. It
Yeah.
requires knowing what's happening now, and then really, because I don't really know who I am as the highest, widest, wisest version of me. And so that requires me making enough room inside of my body and mind for God to come in.
Yeah.
That feels so exciting to me, even hearing that is categorized as a thing, that is a thing that happens to me. And I know because I've witnessed people become different people, and I'm always stunned by that. I find that it's the most beautiful. It's like watching a caterpillar become a butterfly.
Yes, and you are how you identify.
Yeah.
And even in times as a young adult, if you're making your own money or if you're an entrepreneur and you're paving your own way for your business, one thing I always say is never say I'm broke.
Yeah.
Even if you have no money, don't ever say you're broke.
You got to watch what you say after I am.
Yes,
for sure.
You do.
For sure. You
Like,
have to
why
watch
would you?
that.
Are you broken? So now you have no capacity to make money ever. Like, that's what that sounds like to me. So and it makes you feel worse. The vibration of that in your body literally makes you less encouraged.
Yes.
To meet your financial goals as well.
Which changes the pace you can work.
Yeah.
Which changes the energy around with you, which you can work. Which changes the conversations that you're willing to have that could encourage you. Now you're just having discouraging conversations, sharing discouraging news. So it's
you are
super important to be
your
careful.
life reflects how you identify.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, of
Atomic
course.
Habits by James Clear.
Great book.
The subtitle says Tiny Changes
Whoa.
and Remarkable
Wow.
Remarkable Results. Don't look at the camera.
Okay, I know. I'm looking dead at
Dead. That's great, though. That's awesome. We love that. Cheese. All right. So the next segment of our podcast is the Wisdom Owl. So I'm going to pull a question from this owl here. All right.
I was just cheesing at it too.
Yeah, I love it.
Just
Like, hey, girl, hey, I see me.
Okay.
So this question says, how do you determine which direction to move, up or down, when you're working with the chakras?
Okay, this is a fantastic question.
That's a good question for you.
So the energy of the chakras, the way that I understand them, the energy moves both up and down, in and out.
Ooh.
Okay. That's how energy flows and goes. So when you're talking about levels of consciousness with your chakras, going up is enlightenment. So that's not anything that you would pursue materially. That's more so your spiritual energy, the higher you go up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lower you go down, it's what people call their downloads. It's what they call their connection to God. It's what is their thoughts all the way down into manifestation. So it's from enlightenment to the material. That's the travel down. Now the travel in is everything that we internalize. So that's from my conversation with you. That's the breath that I take in. It's the food that I take in. All of that is coming into my vessel and being sorted through my inner experience. And then everything I let out is the outcome of that. So that's me breathing, me exhaling. That's me sharing my thoughts and opinions with you. And that's really just the filter that I am.
You're so smart.
Thanks.
I was not expecting that answer. My answer is going to be a little more, it's going to be different. I'm not going to judge my answer. It's just going to be different. So because I am getting very, very comfortable, frankly, am entirely comfortable with letting God lead. I tap in where God taps me in. It's like a relay. So when I sit down in my meditation, I am breathing and I'm following my breathing and I'm feeling around for what spirit is saying to me. I work on what comes up. I show up where I'm where I find myself. So if that has something to do with identity or esteem or feeling about my personal self, then I will work on that, which is my third chakra, which is, my personal power, my projection. If I find myself in an experience where I feel trapped in my voice, if I feel like I'm not really saying what needs to be said, then I will focus my energy there. So my life right now is all about presence and flow, really being in the moment I'm in and hearing what God has to say to me about the moment that I'm in, and then accessing, using my tools for that project in the moment. But I love that in and out particularly.
Yeah, but I think that what you were saying elaborates on that actually, because when you go out, what are you tapping into? Are you tapping into your fear? Like we were talking about meditating outside with your eyes closed. Are you tapping into that fear? Are there lots of, fear rushing up to your thoughts and having you feel that way? Or are you operating from a place of love? Are you being compassionate? Are you being caring? So that would be your center. And to relate to the solar plexus or the personal power, I had to realize, like, because I'm just a filter for what God is working through me, the closer I come to understanding that, I am realizing that my solar plexus is really just a tool. All of our emotions are tools that we can enable. We can either have the spiritual strength to let God just continue to move through us, or we can take our own, personal will and decide, well, I'm going to be upset at this person, or I'm going to enable my energy and my emotions in particular ways. And I'm learning that I actually don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, just because I have the function or the capacity to do certain things doesn't mean that I need to. And so as it relates to my solar plexus, because I'm a filter, I'm just going to let God work through me, and I don't need to do all the work. I don't need to do all of this hardcore pushing, hardcore. And even if I am in the physical space where that's what I need to do, whether I'm running, whether I'm, at work doing something, I can tap into the understanding that God is always working through me.
Yes.
And immediately I feel that I'm doing it with more
Ease, yes.
Immediately.
Absolutely. Because you are. Because you've made room for God to take over. And God takes over. Because God is always, God is always here in your breath as you. But if you grab the wheel, God is like, oh, she got it.
And a lot of the times when we're tense and we're tight, and that might be just it. A lot of the times when we're tense and we're tight and we're in charge and we're in control, we stop breathing.
Yeah.
We stop doing a lot of
God
things
like,
that allow God
in
to come in,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love that. I'm excited to be back in this vehicle that is the Sovereign You ship again.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us for this first episode of season 2. Bravo for making it here, the story.
Yes.
Thank you for your time
for
and
taking me.
Absolutely.
Bringing me with you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So until next week, take care.
Okay.
My presence is a present. This moment is a gift. My joy is now. My presence is a present. This moment is a gift. My joy is now.